But to revisit something as traumatic as abuse can be frightening up front, but it's certainly worth the healing that's going to come out on the other end.
Well, hey there, community. How are you doing today? It's Rachel here. I just went to my annual women's health exam, which involves meeting up with my OB GYN, the fabulous Monica Hannon, here in San Francisco, and having an exam. And I know that this topic has come up here and there in our community and forum before, so I wanted to just take a little minute because it's so top of mind right now, of course, having just walked into this exam myself, of the challenges that survivors of sexual abuse can face when going in for, regular, routine, very necessary, very important, very needed care. So I was thinking a little bit about some of the ways that we can make this exam a little bit easier on ourselves. I know for myself, when I was a teenager and was informed that I had to do this thing called a pap smear, I was like, what are you talking about? That is crazy pants. Who wants to do that every single year? And I remember it being really difficult, really scary, and oftentimes re-traumatizing. And now, of course, as I grew up and I learned more how to use my voice and take good care of myself, I started to develop some strategies. And of course, along the way, in healing, my trauma, these sorts of exams are not nearly as triggering, if at all, really. I don't really experience triggering at all during these exams now. And I know for many of you that you'd like to get to that point. So let's talk about 3 things that you can do. The first thing is, when you very first initially meet with a doctor, any doctor really, but particularly an OB/GYN, if they do not have on their forms a question about abuse, are you a survivor of abuse? Have you ever experienced rape or assault? I actually kind of take that as a warning to myself. I've walked into offices, I've set the appointment, I've gotten the form, and I've seen that being absent, and I've actually walked out. And I said, you know what? These folks, they're not hip, they're not woke, they don't understand what's really going on for women, so I'm not going to let them examine me. Other times I've just gotten curious and I've asked questions. So what I noticed when I started working with my doctor, she did indeed have those questions on her form, and we also had a nice sit down before we even walked into the exam room. So that's another thing that you can actually request. I'd like to meet with a doctor before going into the exam room, especially if this is like your very first time meeting with this doctor. You just go straight in, you gotta take everything off. That's so vulnerable. So this doctor actually took me into her office, which was just, chair, table, desk, and we talked. And so if a doctor does not do that with you, or is not willing to do that with you, again, opportunity to get out of there. Find someone who will take that time. Building some rapport, building some relationship, and of course in that time, I was able to just simply say to her, I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. And that actually brings me to point number 2, or tip number 2, which is create a little script for yourself. You don't need to tell your whole history, you don't need to explain the who, the where, the what, the how, but just to say to your doctor, I want you to know that I am a survivor of sexual abuse, and as you're examining me, here are the things that I would like to request. So that brings me to tip number 3. Ooh, the sun's coming out. Can't see. Okay. Tip number 3 is think about what you want to request. Some really common, easy things to do. I need you to talk to me as you are doing things. So I'm about to touch you here. I'm going to do this now. Here's the next step. So that verbal communication is super important, okay? Ask for that. Ask for them to tell you. Also make requests to say that if I tell you to stop or I need to take a break, I need you to request that. And at the same time, I also really recommend that you come up with a hand cue. Like if you raise your hand, because sometimes if we start to feel, triggered or traumatized in something like that, speaking actually is really hard to do. That has a lot to do with the way that the brain is, functioning when we start to feel triggered or traumatized. So think about a hand cue that you can use to signal to your doctor, hey, I need you to pause, I need you to stop for a second. And little bonus tip, have somebody in the room with you, or bring somebody who you can trust, girlfriend, that's okay. You can have anyone in that room with you that you want. That is your right as a patient. So I hope these tips have helped a little bit as you go out there and take care of you. Because the thing that we want to avoid is not scheduling these exams, not going in for this care, because it's so critical to our health and wellness as women, and we deserve it. If we can start to also think about this time as a self-care time, right? Rather than this exam that I have to go do. I really think of it that way. So I hope this has helped a little bit. If you have questions, comments, you want to share your experiences, please feel free to comment here in this thread, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Have a great, beautiful day. Bye now.